Here's a question for you. Why do you want to start your own business? Give me 3 quick reasons and I'll run the intro while you think of them. Okay, I'll bet for many people you could summarise lots of the reasons under the heading of freedom. You're free to make your own decisions, change your working hours, try some different things, your location maybe, explore new business ventures. But there is a huge elephant trap here waiting for the newly minted business owner. Allow me to explain. When starting up, if you've got no experience, you might have expected these freedom benefits to come with the territory, but actually nothing could be further from the truth. You won't see any of these as of right. On day one, you'll have a load of things to do and the pace only gets hotter and hotter. You can rapidly become overwhelmed to the point where you've definitely lost control. I know this for a fact because it happened to me when I first started my own one-man business. I got engulfed in a series of demands from all sides that, far from giving me a sense of freedom, actually made me feel completely hemmed in by numerous demands from every side. There are your prospects and clients who you have to keep sweet as a priority, but then there's the bank manager who you need to make sure isn't on the warpath. Then the marketing needs to get sorted because without future sales you're doomed. But then there's your family who you haven't seen for weeks. Then there's actually delivering the service that you've sold. Very soon that mirage of freedom has become engulfed by a new set of bosses and you're back under the cosh, which was partly at least the reason why you started the business in the first place. Your new dictators are now your customers, your bank manager, your family who haven't seen you. The customers may give you their requirements, but they're the prospects to follow up on, and they're a priority too. Your bank manager may be able to tell you where you stand, but frankly banks these days have no real insight into small businesses, so you have to spend a bit of time with them making sure they're happy, just in case you need their financial input further down the line. And as for your family, well, they just want to see you without knowing that your mind is continually elsewhere. It's the sheer weight of these requirements and the number of them that's not really explicit when you start. You can pretend that you've done your research, but the demand comes at you from all sides, and in a way it's difficult to imagine before you start. So how do we retain that elusive freedom while the bullets are flying? Well, my adage, which I realised in the middle of my startup, is that freedom comes from control. I realised that it was possible for me to be busy, but the stress only came when I was not feeling in control. So my objective at that point became how to regain control. And so here are the 5 ways I got my freedom back. Number 1, plan, plan and plan again. I realised freedom didn't mean being free to act like a headless chicken. So I went back to planning, and I went back to first principles. I'd done a business plan that I had put in a drawer and I ignored almost from day one. So that came back out and I started looking and creating a plan which got more and more detailed until I got down to the daily stuff I needed to do. When I was down at that level, I checked that I hadn't missed anything, and then I started delivering the daily tasks inside the overall plan. And from that came a familiar but avoidable pressure: no time. So, number 2, time management. To deliver my plan, I had to be realistic in my time management. I had a daily schedule of deliverables. So I then revisited the timings I'd allowed and adjusted them so they lived in the real world. Then I started properly managing my time, in as much as I would stop a task if I was overrunning, in order that it didn't mean the next task suffered. It meant that I had maybe one thing undone at the end of the day rather than loads. And as a result, I was much more in control. So number 3 is personal discipline. The next pressure came when I was hit by unplanned events, which there are loads when you're running a small business. And it was tempting to drop everything just to deal with them. I was tempted to answer the ringing phone and to have a much longer chat with a supplier, and that could kill my plan. I got progressively more and more disciplined and began to feel, as a result, much more free. Number 4, financial discipline. So the comparatively low position of money on this task list may be a bit surprising, and it did start much higher. But the thing is that money is just a scorecard of how well the business is going. And I realised that all I needed to do was make sure I knew what was in the company bank account and what was coming down the track. Provided my cash flow forecast was good, I didn't need anything. Provided I didn't buy a new car or move office, I didn't need to really worry about money. Which doesn't mean there was loads sloshing about, far from it. 5. Personal discipline. The 5th source of control and freedom came when I recognised that I was slowly killing myself personally while running the business. I hadn't scheduled in looking after myself, and I wasn't exercising. I rarely took time off, let alone took a holiday. I never saw my family, and when I did, my mind was elsewhere, and I was running myself into the ground. So what eventually happened with that first business was that I realised I needed, frankly, to just start again. But the point in the second iteration was that I already knew the 5 approaches I needed to be in control, and that's how I started my second business. So provided I planned for all of them, it was possible to maintain my well-being. So I sold the company and started a new business. I started with a plan that, using my new disciplines, I knew I could maintain over the longer term. And so it has proved. 20 years further down the line of that business coming up soon, and I'm in control, and as a result I'm much freer.